Moving on, Mary, Marketing Director's briefing and Carol Wilbur.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning. I went ahead and you should all have a marketing report in front of you. If you don't, I do have extras, David, I think you have one. So I did send out a marketing report yesterday, but I came in early this morning and edited it to include a Google Analytics report for October. So you can delete the one that was sent yesterday and refer to this one. And just to go through it quickly, I keep a binder of all of any press coverage, CEDC, anytime we're mentioned in the paper. It gets recorded, it's in a binder. I keep an accurate record of all of those. If there's anything listed here that you missed and you'd like to see, give me a call. I can scan it in and email it to you very easily. As far as I know, we were mentioned in 17 articles in the month of October, so it was pretty busy. We put out 4 press releases. We have 1 print advertising in October, and that was to advertise the October 23rd Ask the Experts Business Roundtable. I sent out 8 e-blasts during the month of October. But there again, if you missed any of those, I can forward those to you. I posted 4 news stories on the website. Our Google Analytics report for the month of October, that's October 1 through October 27. The number of new and returning visitors has increased. Actually, it was up by 20 or 29. So we are increasing our numbers every month. Our average duration of visit remains approximately 2 minutes and 58 seconds, which is about what it's been right since we began keeping records. Increased number of visitors using mobile and tablet devices, that's increasing every month. Interestingly, the top 5 pages visited in the month of October, of course our home page is always first. IDA page, CEDC page, Ken's bio, and Bruce Bonsack's bio. We coordinated and managed 2 events in the month of October. One was our annual CEO Roundtable, which we held on the Hudson Cruises' new boat, the Marika, and it was very well attended. And I'd like to, it was actually funded by corporate sponsors, and I'd like to just acknowledge those corporate sponsors again. A. Caluso and Son, Finger Insurance, Bank of Greene County, Kinnick Bank, Mid-Hudson Cable, Richmore Aviation, and Crawford and Associates. So with their generous sponsorships, we were able to hold our annual CEO event. Etsy was our featured speaker. Heather Jassy, Vice President of Member Operations, was our presenter. She did a really excellent job, and really, many of us do not realize what Etsy is, what they do, how they contribute to the local economy. She really explained all of that to us. I think those of you who were at the event would agree with me. She did a great job. I'm going to be following up and doing a story on Etsy with a sidebar to talk about those very things, how they contribute to the local economy, who in our region, what small businesses and entrepreneurs are participating with Etsy. So I think there's a lot of really good stories there, and that's something that we're working on right now. Let's see. We're continuing with our on-site business visits. Ken and I and Supervisor Ron Knott visited the Williams Farm and Kinderhook and And I don't know if Ken wants to talk about it, but that was really an amazing trip. It's amazing what this farm is doing over there, and we'll do a little write-up on that visit as well. I've listed all my meetings and events that I've attended. Most notably, I think, was the Chamber of Business Expo at the beginning of October. CEDC had we were a sponsor, we had a booth, we shared it with Columbia County Tourism, and it was a great event. And look forward to that again next year. I list my correspondence, current projects, working on the next Economic Development Roundtable, which will take place on December 4th. Still working on the website, website optimization and functionality upgrades. Working on the fourth quarter e-newsletter. I've listed the stories that I'm working on and continue to work on scheduling the on-site business visits for November and December.
Any questions for Carol? Comments?
Nice job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Micro-business update. I presume that might be Martha.
Thank you, Mary. We didn't have any loans to present to the loan committee this month, but we do have several projects in the pipeline, and I'm hopeful that 2, if not 3, will be ready to bring to the committee by the end of the year. We're more than halfway through our micro-business seminar series. Tonight is the marketing session. We have a 2.5-hour session with a marketing expert, and the participants in that class are starting to work with technical assistance providers, and I have 2, if not 3, in that program that I'm hoping will be applying for a loan as well. Regarding the technical assistance, I am in the process of completing the quarterly technical assistance reimbursement request for the SBA, which is an intensely data-driven, time-consuming boondoggle and my least favorite part of my job. But we're looking for $12,000 for the quarter that ended September 30th. And as you mentioned, Greg, it does bring some money into our coffers. The more we have in outstanding loans through the SBA program, the more money we get for technical assistance. Does anyone have any questions about the SBA program? Thank you.
Thanks, Martha.
Mary, if we could just go to other business, I have some activity I'd like to talk about before we get to the Ginsburg, if that's okay. I did want to, in the past month, visited 12 businesses, and as Martha just pointed out, some of those businesses will be hopefully developing into potential loans and expansions and new jobs. We kicked off finally the GOAT study meeting here with elected officials, with our advisory panel, elected officials, Joan Snyder, who is heading up as our consultant, and Tim Turner, Representative Uriel. If this is successful between the creamery and the goat farms in the region, not necessarily in just the county, we could be talking about projected a new $100 million industry within 7 to 10 years, when the creamery's at full production and the goat farms are in production. But this study will provide a blueprint for farmers or want to be farmers for starting a dairy goat herd. In our loan fund, we have an outstanding balance of $1.5 million right now. In the vast majority is all but maybe 1 or 2 are really what would be considered small businesses. And we do have some late ones. We really only have 2 late we're struggling to pay, but we're working with them on workout with them. LaBella's in Phoenix Services, and then Greekport Crossings, still going through the Chapter 11 process, and there are some new investors that I understand that discussions are taking place, so maybe that'll emerge from Chapter 11 and reopen the convenience store part of it. That's the activity that's been going on.
Ken, question, on the Gopher project, is Todd Erling's organization also involved?
Yeah, our advisory panel
Is that-
includes all the elected officials, includes CLC and Peter Payton, includes Todd Erling,
Okay.
includes, we Cornell Cooperative Extension, we tried to hit everybody.
I bring it up, we've got some projects in the works, and we're meeting with Todd and the Cooperative Extension on some things that we will tie into programmatically at the school, so I know, get a sense of who the players are that already at the table.
Great.
Thank you.
Not directly related to CEDC, but Ronnie Brook Farms was awarded $1 million state grant for their development rights on their farm in Ankara. And we still have, do we have a loan with Ronnie Brook? We do. So it is related to us. Good.
State grant, not Cena Cudson or
Cena
Land
Hudson.
Trust or...
CEDC Hudson's going to participate in about $300,000 of that, and so it's $1.3 million project in the state, and CEDC Hudson roughly a little over $300,000.
How many acres?
212. It's a lot of acres, and it's in it's one of the reasons it was awarded is perceived to be in a high development area. So the development pressure on the land is significant. Right. Yeah. That's good. Any questions on any of that? Moving on to Ginsburg project. What I'll discuss, the IDA is holding November 5th, 10:30 meeting at the West End Firehouse to consider the project, but as it relates to CEDC and the land, generally I want to start a little bit back to the beginning. So every board member who's at least here and read the minutes understands how CEDC acquired the land. In reviewing the financial records of CEDC, the land was acquired by CEDC through a $36,000 special appropriation from the county and a borrowing or mortgage taken by CEDC of $78,000 and repaid. And that is the $114,000 that Chairman Grattan has referenced in his letter as the cost of the land to the county. The assumption in the letter being that the $78,000, although borrowed by CEDC, was paid back essentially with county funds. After an exhaustive research and review of sites available to Ginsburg, and the company independently looking outside the county, we spent about 2 years doing that. And the parcel that Ginsburg is now proposing to build on was looked at in the beginning and not rejected, but put on the back burner, and correct me if I'm wrong, put on the back burner as a result of the substantial development costs there, make the parcel shovel ready, and also the parcel is a difficult shape to build on. But after careful consideration, the company decided that this would be the best parcel for how they want to do the project. And do it in phases. It's in proximity to their existing facility, and it is in the county that they started in and would like to stay. So right immediately when there was some serious consideration of this parcel, I asked an independent consulting firm to, in 2013, I think it was June, July 2013, I asked this engineer to develop the costs of extension of water, sewer, utilities, and electricity, because it's a little difficult on power on that, to develop costs of what it would make to do to make that shovel ready. So we did that, and then when the company's engineer looked at the site, there were substantial costs in removing the fill that the county, as I understand it, I wasn't here, put on that site. The company, with our permission, did some soil borings and decided, or not decided, but it was determined that this fill would have to come off the site to make the site level, and that it is not decent material to build on. So those costs are estimated, just to remove the fill, estimated at $585,000. And the breakdown of the costs, or the total of all the costs in terms of water, sewer, electricity, natural gas, entrance to the piece of land, and the removal of fill is $985,000. And I'm sure, well, $985,000, I'm sure that probably closer to $1 million. But we have documentation of $985,000. As you all know, Chairman Grattan sent a letter requesting that 114, which is 109 and change for the parcel purchase price plus closing costs. He's requested CEDC to pay back the county, or pay the county, as it is structured in the Commerce Park. I do want to make it clear, this parcel is not in the Commerce Park. As a result, that's why Ginsburg had to go through a full secret process. There is a generic environmental impact statement on the Commerce Park, which allows companies and people to build within roughly 60 days, because they don't have to go through the full environment. Again, this parcel was not in that, so that was an additional cost, or a cost incurred by the company. And as business people who have tried to do, or who have done projects, know that that is not an inexpensive process either. So that's where we stand in terms of the background, the data, and the facts of the parcel. One last thing is that CEDC did commission an appraisal by Empire State Appraisal Consultants, of which it was determined the fair market value was $280,000. And that was not with proposing one large facility which would have to remove all that material.
So the capsule, put it in a capsule, it will cost $585,000 to remove fill that the county decided to dump on our property, basically speaking. And now they want to be paid back $114,000. And it's certainly an expense that apparently the Ginsburgs are willing to incur. But I also think we also have to keep in mind the fact we're getting new jobs, we're keeping a 100-some-year-old business in the county. It looks like we're between a rock and a hard spot as far as the government of Columbia County. They want the money. And I'm not sure, it just drives me crazy that they think we have no value. Who brought in when Kaz left? Did they care? No, they didn't care. Kaz left, they were gone, but we found a company to come in and worked hard on that company.
I'd also like, there was, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there was a comment at the public hearing, IDA, not bring IDA into it, but that Flanders was closing. We've reached out to the company, they are not closing, they are full bore, they have 270 employees, they are leasing space off-site already, they are not going anywhere, at least in the foreseeable future. So I just wanted to correct the record on that.
And we all know that the county did bring that fill in, because if you were around here then, they were digging
Absolutely.
for Whittier
Right.
and dumping it down.
County Highway Department trucks, took it out and put it up
Talk
there.
about county taxpayer money.
Exactly, just the board editorial then.
Maybe Sarah and Karen can answer, just the board of supervisors, I know they approved that letter. The full board was, I don't know if they formally approved it or not, the letter that came to us requesting reimbursement. But prior to that letter going out, or even now, does the full board understand the entire economics of that personal property that you just elaborated? The cost of removal, that it's not in the Commerce Park, that it's not.
It's the first I'm hearing anything, and actually, I'm a representative from the board. I think Sarah's a member here.
Yeah,
So, but, however, it's the first, have you heard this?
no. So I think I think there's been a lot of miscommunication or just assumption that everybody knew things. And I think, given this information, we can go back and talk to Pat or...
I take it that it's not clean fill.
It's not what?
I would
Not
say it's
clean.
probably all clay, just from, and which is not stable enough.
I mean, it's not something that you can build on, you spread it out and build on it.
So anyway, that study was done by Morris Associates, and it was done in 2013 at Ken's request. It had nothing to do with Ginsburg's, what do you call it, engineer, or anyone else on this board for that matter. So I think there's just so much, it's ridiculous how much,
Again, one point of clarification, the cost of removing the fill was Ginsburg's engineer estimate. Everything else was independently done by Morris Associates at the commission of me last year, knowing that there were some substantial costs of making this shovel-ready.
I think one definite action here, depending on what action we take, we certainly should write a letter from CEDC to the Board of Supervisors, or to Pat, responding, to the point that he was making with all this information, so that it's laid out from our point of view and can then be circulated to the other supervisors.
Let me be clear, I think there's maybe some miscommunications, you call Sarah, at the Board of Supervisors, in that I report to a committee. I don't report to the whole 23 supervisors, so. The committee may know, but the supervisors.
Right, so why, you can write the letter to Pat and copy all the supervisors on it, so everybody has the full story in their own hands.
Yep.
the other thing, it's not just the 20 jobs, it's however long it's going to take to build these things, all the contractors and the works people, the laborers, the whatever. It's a lot of jobs, a lot of money coming into the county, and when the money comes into the county, a lot of it gets spent in the county. That whole multiplier thing they're forgetting it all. Scott?
Ken, I would suggest that when we send this letter, the one thing that stuck out, one of the things that stuck out for me from our last meeting was Pat saying that he had not seen the document outlining all of the specific economic advantages of this project, nor had he shared it with anybody on the Board of Supervisors before he wrote the letter to us. So I think that you might add that as an addendum to this letter, because I believe, again, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of statements, there's a lot of characterizations, but I believe what we're trying to deal with is the facts of the issue, and that first document you did was very succinct and to the point, and what we are responding to.
Okay.
You want to go into whatever it's called, executive session to discuss a contract, I presume. But before we do that, does anybody from the public have anything they want to say?
I just want to speak to the issue of the soil. I mean, I have property there in close proximity, and the soil conservation folks came shortly after we moved there and said, oh, you have hard pan here. It's all clay through there, regardless of what the fill is. If they dig down below that fill, it's going to be clay also.
We live on clay. I think a lot of the county
You
is
said
clay.
that the soil borings done, so that's a fact. So
Yes.
whenever the soil borings
Wherever,
show.
yeah, and
That's not this.
I mean, they know, and I don't remember the report directly, exactly, but they drill down through the fill, and then they hit what they, yeah, they know exactly what's there.
Chris?
Who gave the county permission to dump the fill there?
I presume the county gave themselves the permission, because the county does a lot of things. That's my presumption. I don't know. Can anybody answer that better? We didn't have the same board of supervisors then, obviously. How long ago was that?
Jerry was
But the property was owned by the
governing.
CEDC, they didn't have to say to you, you own the property, we're gonna dump some fill there, is that okay?
I have no
I
idea.
would say they probably just jumped it on themselves to do what they do.
It was close to Whittier.
Who did the borings? Who did the borings? The borings on the site? And is there a report available to the public?
You can, yes, you can submit an FOI for that. I'm not, I forget the company, and it's actually, I'll have to talk to our attorney, because the company actually paid for it, so I'm not sure we can release it, but of course, if we can, we will.
What, is there a reason why it's so private?
I don't know. I just, CEDC did not pay for the borings, so it is not my, CEDC's property. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Sir?
Just to go back a moment, Ken, I thought you said that CEDC through Morris did the borings?
No,
That's not correct,
Morris.
okay. Okay, then in fact, who commissioned the borings, under whose title?
The company, Ginsberg's.
Oh, okay,
We gave
Ginsberg's for their
CEDC.
consultant? Yes, that would be CMC Engineering out of Virginia, I believe. Yeah.
I have no idea. I can't remember who did the borings.
I do.
I think it was an
I'm quite
old-
familiar with them, yes. Now, let's go back to 1996, 97, in that area. When the county acquired the property, actually, is it CEDC that acquired the property, or did the county acquire the property from?
CEDC.
Okay, CEDC. So was CEDC's property at the time that, do you remember looking through the record, a name by the name of Bioforce, commonly called in the county the Needle Factory, and that's why that particular fill was placed there, and Gardena was paid a considerable amount of money to create a platform for the beginning of that project?
If I understand what my history is that it was not Bioforce, which is in the Commerce Park contemplating expansion. It was America Biomedica.
I stand corrected. I thought that was the same company. I'm sorry.
And that's all I know.
Yeah, that was why that particular activity, those soils activities, was there, and that's why the borings show green glass in the borings, because the green glass was coming from the recyclable plant. At that time, there was no value to green crushed glass, couldn't get rid of it. So the county used it as the waste portion for there and tilled it into those soils, while the Gardena company was commissioned by, I would assume, it had to be either the county or CEDC, to begin to create that platform for the, and again, the name was National, whatever you said just now, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, and that never materialized. So that's where that, really how that was born, that whole situation. So it had to be, at least by the acknowledgement and activity, countering with the county to put that fill there and create that activity. So it was not the county that dumped it on you or somebody. It had to be dialogue that took place in an agreement.
Now, wouldn't a fill seeker reveal all that though, once that's completed?
The seeker didn't take into account that. The reason why is because they came up with a negative impact, so there was no need for it, as the planning boards looked at it. That secret has a 78 filed against it now.
I also would assume that phase one was done on the land. But that, again, that would be commissioned by the company for the reuse.
Anything else for the public? If not,
if the board members feel they need to enter into executive session to discuss the sale of the property, that's fine, but if the board is interested in drafting a letter to the Board of Supervisors as suggested by Sarah, and I don't know, John, I think you concurred, of laying out these economic facts for the parcel. I don't know if we need to really go into executive session.
I concur that the letter is,
why are we just prolonging the agony by another however long without making a decision? I'm throwing this out, this is a
Can I
discussion.
ask a question? Andy, where do we stand with the, and what impact, if any, will this have on our window with the authority budget office?
The 90-day period is set to expire on the 20th of November. So, in terms of having ongoing discussion, we have time to do that. There are some other provisions which talk about the governor's ability as well as the legislature's ability to object to any proposed transaction for less than fair market value. And there's some specific timing in the statute relative to that. So there's some additional time. So should the board decide that they're going to take some other path, based on the timing of the statutory language, I would probably suggest that you do another notification, to be honest with you. So you have time, essentially, would be my answer.
What would be the advantage of postponing a letter to the board? Except for the board.
I presume the thinking, and I can't say for anybody, but this is, and we all know what happens when you assume, is that maybe the Board of Supervisors will say, oh, I guess it isn't such a bad deal. We're getting a lot of jobs, we're getting this, we're getting that, and the fact is, it's going to cost a lot just to be able to build a building there.
Right, now, not talking about the substance, I thought we were talking about postponing the sending of this letter. That was...
No, that was postponing.
Postponing
Any action on...
Any action on the land. Excuse me, I was mixing up the two.
Letter, I think, is what seems to be a good idea in everybody's mind, and
I think we need to hear the reaction from the county before we can discuss the contract, so I don't think we really need to go to executive session.
I think we should set some kind of timetable or a special meeting, to get the letter off to the county, to wait for a response, and then be prepared to do whatever action is taken, or needs to be taken. Can we wait to the next meeting? Can we wait to the end of November, which is Thanksgiving? In that time frame? And how does it affect any potential?
Next full board is the 12th. Next full board is the 12th.
November. And when can we, how quickly after their meetings do they respond?
Well, at those meetings, that's basically all the resolutions that come out of committees and stuff. It's not an open discussion time. So I would suggest that as Ken has presented this history here, that he send a nice letter because he's, what you say, a nice letter. Not a dealership for bracelet, but a nice letter. We voted already on this contract here several months ago, and I think, let's talk about misunderstandings. I said, replied to Pat Cumming last time and said, here's the history, and we'd like to present this to you as this is the reason why we did this. We didn't actually, the board here, discuss that, but this is obviously, this has happened this way. and send that letter and say, we request you rethink your decision.
Sarah, is there a committee that would meet, or Pat's just, could he just, I mean, he just sent the letter out without any
Yeah, I
full
think it
board
was clear
official.
that this was coming from him. I don't know if it would be economic development.
She knows.
If I could,
Pardon?
Do you know what possessed him to send it in the first place?
Well, there's a lot of public, he was getting a lot of questions from a lot of taxpayers saying,
So it's a whole political thing.
why are you spending my money this way?
You know, we're bogged
So
down
we'll
in the middle of it.
then I think just send something back. If it's valid, then it's...
yeah, and I agree. I think what we can do is we could send a letter to Pat, Chairman Grant, and I think the chairman would react fairly quickly.
Legal committee.
Yeah, like legal.
Legal committee.
And we can always call a special meeting of...
I just don't have the schedule with me as to when they
Is there a special, there could be a special finance before the full committee. Anyway.
There is a special finance.
There is a special finance.
We can do
I
that.
can work with you, kind of make sure we get it to the right committee.
Right, yeah,
We
yeah.
can send it more.
Yeah, we can send it more.
Send it to all of them.
But, and as, I think it was Scott who said, you know, you need to send it to CC everybody and all the supervisors. But I think we'd get a quick response before, and if we needed to have a special meeting of CEDC to respond to whatever the response is, we can certainly do that too.
So you're going to summarize, you're going to send a letter, and it's not going to affect our timetable of the ABO or any contracts that we have outstanding? Is there a term on the contract we have with the client? Does it expire at any time?
We haven't executed it yet. We're waiting for the...
So it's open-ended for the period?
Correct.
And certainly we have to have discussions with them ongoing, you know, with regard to the status, but...
But to summarize, Mike, I think we're going to send a letter from CEDC to Chairman Grant, CC all the supervisors. The letter will outline that these are the facts: acquisition, appraisal, the shovel-ready development costs, and that we're asking Chairman Grant to reconsider his request for repayment of $114,000. Correct?
And you're including the economic impacts.
Will include economic impact, cost, and economic impact.
And the cost to remove that fill.
Yes.
Yes.
Any more discussion on that?
I'll make a motion on it.
Okay.
Whatever Ken
We
just
have a
said.
motion to write the letter, including cost to make it shovel-ready and economic impact. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Write the letter.
And I will sign it and...
Anything else under other business?
As I said, we do have a significant number of FOIs requesting a significant amount of information, and I just want to let you know that staff resources, potentially pretty much this week, will go to that.
Ken, could you elaborate on the FOIs? You did the one on our financial disclosures. What else do we have going?
Lisa, please help me.
Okay, we have a request for LaBerge information, we have a request for...
Can you give us who what was it?
LaBerge, and LaBerge Consulting.
LaBerge is used, we use them as a consultant to write applications, because the applications are, you know, like this. So we use them to, they've written one for Ginsburg's, they've written one for Catamount, they've written one for hospital.
We have
the hospital.
information regarding Ginsburg's project from inception to date, FOIL requests for the financial disclosure. That was the other one. Payroll information. I'm missing some minutes. And I'm missing one and I can't think of what it is.
But that's general, and the one, well, not the one, but I don't know how many, but involve emails, correspondence, and you can imagine how many emails.
Scott, you had your hand up?
Just something I think the board should discuss. Recently, we received, I think about 3 or 4 months ago, a letter from Supervisor Bear asking us to review the legality of certain issues that we had done. And we had discussed it in here with our council and believe that everything we have done, we were reassured that everything we've done that's been legal and in conformity. And thought we had replied properly to Supervisor Bear. And then the issue resurfaced in the past week or 2 with another supervisor going ahead and somehow categorizing our correspondence as being evasive and not meeting the request that the original supervisor had. So I would like us to consider, and I'm not sure the proper way to do it, maybe responding to both those supervisors again, saying that indeed, we seriously considered your request. We have gone to our council. We have been reassured that everything we've done is legal and up to board. And please, what more do you want us to do? Or, I'm not sure exactly what to say, but there's somehow this perception that this board is doing something illegally, and when it was brought to our attention that we did not look into it, is unwarranted.
Council?
So I'm not sure.
I think the discussion, Scott, when we had this discussion was you received a general request for a legal opinion that everything this board has done has met legal and ethical standards. Not specifically with Ginsburg's, not specifically with anything. And the question and the discussion we had was, what does that mean? It seemed very ambiguous and vague. To me as an attorney, does that mean I start and look at each and every one of your appointments to see that you are legally appointed? Does that mean I go to Lisa and look at every one of the legal notices that was sent for every meeting that's been held since I've been the attorney in January? You know, what was the request? And the discussion of this board was, why would we write such a letter? If there's specific questions, we'll answer them. So as a result of that, the letter I wrote was that we felt that this request was a little bit vague and overbroad, but by way of background, because we're assuming that the question was Ginsburg's, here is the timeline and here is what was done in connection with that. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I've not been contacted.
And I have, I have spoken to Supervisor Bear and Bassens and saying that if you want specifics, please let me know. What are the specifics?
I don't disagree with that. As I sit here today, I still don't know, other than what we've told them, in that this board reviewed the proposed contract, reviewed the terms of the note and mortgage. We've done the requisite filing with the ABO.
My recollection was that there was an assurance on your part, Andy, that everything that you knew, we had done in a proper fashion. But we have the situation now where there's now a second supervisor. Perhaps the appropriate response would be to send, perhaps, and again, I'm not trying to escalate anything, but we have here a situation where we have representatives to the board sitting on our committee. We believe we have responded properly to Supervisor Bear. Perhaps it's a letter to Supervisor Bear and Basson saying, here is enclosed the letter that we sent out at that specific time in which we have asked for, which would you like us to do?
Are they both up for election next year?
Let's not even get politics into it. Let's
Yeah,
just
but
put it,
that's what they're putting
again,
into it.
I would suggest
We should
that,
be done with this.
I would suggest that what we do, we have nothing in it to hide on this, and the perception is that somehow we are, that we take the offensive, maybe that's a bad term, that we take the initiative to again reestablish our willingness to discuss with them whatever they'd like to discuss.
It's a fair option, but I don't think it's going to quiet the chance to run off at the lip a little bit in front of the paper.
You can never stop that, but you can emphasize the correct things that we have been doing, and as a board member, relying upon council's affirmation that we have been acting correctly, And the fact that that seems to have been misinterpreted, I think needs, again, the PR, whatever the terminology be, but an effort on our part to straighten the record.
I'm all for it, but I don't know that it's going to quite.
Scott, I would say that they're both retired, and these are public meetings at 8:30 in the morning. I've never seen them here. They're certainly welcome to come. And that's what I would say, to them, come to the meetings. You know, you can sit there, ask us all the questions.
Who's on our board? As a representative.
The letter from Supervisor Bear, was that something that was authorized by the full board of supervisors, or is that just his own
Just his own.
initiative?
Just his own.
So it's like, I would say, if the full board wants the information, let the full board respond to your letter and give us specifics of what they want from us.
Just as an observer,
That's what your letter said, correct?
Great.
just as an observer, how did you ask your counsel to be arresting officer, investigating officer, judge, jury, and Supreme Court of all of you? It's an impossibility for the man to do. No matter what he does, he either exonerates you or in some way inflicts guilt on you. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
No, he just has to state facts.
Yeah, it is a request by a single supervisor on his own, and then reinforced or reiterated by one other single supervisor. And I should, last but not least, the Board of Supervisors Committee, Subcommittee on CEDC relationship with the county met last Thursday for the first time. Discussion on what was the objectives of the committee, and basically it was to review the relationship of how CEDC has been working in relation to the county and county's appropriation. And then it boiled down to wondering, we were there for a single, and these are not my words, these are supervisor words, whether it was a single issue that we're talking about, and then there was again a question about communication, and whether is this just a problem with communication. And I talked about the issue and the problems of communication between, an ED committee at the county, IDA, CEDC. It's nobody else has the type of relationship that we have with the county. And that's the next meeting. The committee will be reviewing financial statements and financial condition of CEDC. That pretty much sums it up. That's it. That's all I have in there.
Who are the members of that committee? You know?
Yes. Scalera, Ellen Thurston, who's here, Supervisor Thurston, Rick Keaveney, Pat Grattan, and Jesse DeGroote. Bruce Bonsack will be representing CEDC on that committee. He was not able to make that meeting. And the next meeting is November